listening to the Encouraging Faith podcast, doing ministry together across generational gaps.
Hey, I'm Doug Munton, and I'm glad to have you with Encouraging Faith. I'm the pastor at First Baptist Church of O'Fallon, Illinois. Don't forget the Illinois part. We're in the suburbs of St. Louis, and I'm here with my buddy
Mariano.
Oh, you're going to say your name?
That is my name. I can say it.
Say
Good to be with you guys. Excited to
Sarabia.
do another episode.
You didn't say your last name. Nobody will know your last name.
Isaac's my middle name, too, so Mariano Isaac Sarabia.
Is that
That's
right?
The full one.
Did you get in trouble a lot when you were a kid? You got called that a lot, or no?
It was usually with a Spanish accent when I got in trouble.
I don't blame. I mean, really, I feel like you need to get in trouble more than you do already. Yeah. Hey, we are going to talk with you today a little bit about ministry and how we can learn from other generations and some benefit of that. So I'm older than Mariano, surprise, and we're serving together here at First Baptist O'Fallon for several years. Mariano was in our church and then came on staff as our student pastor, and I've been here for a long time now. And so we just feel like there's some benefit in learning together and so I think I call this learning from other generations in ministry. So let's talk about this a little bit, Mariano, learning from other generations in ministry. And so what do you need me to understand about you and other younger ministry leaders like you?
Yeah, so as I was thinking about it, I just thought about some practical things. And speaking to other pastors, youth pastors in ministry, a lot of them just said that they want their pastor to know that they'd like to get coffee with them or get to know them more and have a relationship.
So we're in a larger church, and sometimes I think, and as the church gets larger, that like sometimes the senior pastor can get disconnected.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear this all the time. That you can, ministry friends who say they're not as connected as they'd like to be in staff, and so I get it. Listen, the world's busy. Ministry world is busy. Yeah. But man, of all the guys, I want to make sure I have time for it. It's the other pastors who are serving with me. But I think a lot of times that's the one. It's something we give up. A senior pastor sometimes give up too quickly, and we miss something by. So you think differently in that regard. Like you like a little bit of hangout time, right?
Yeah. So I think naturally with our different generations, sometimes your generation is more like, hey, we need to work and you get the goals done, and that's good. I want to get goals done, but there's a real value in building the relationship that then I think makes me want to finish and do goals quicker and complete them if I know that my pastor's wanting to get to know me more.
If we're connected a little bit like that, it kind of helps us to want to work together. And instead of like, I think maybe sometimes younger guys, tell me if I'm right about this, they see like they don't want the pastor to feel like just like the senior pastor to feel like just like a boss, right? Yeah. You want to feel like you're comrades without the communism, right?
Sure.
I mean, like you're on the same team.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always feel that way for some ministry guys. I think they feel like that guy's just a boss, but he's not like a partner with me. He's not a partner with me.
Yeah, I think there's a common disconnect, and yes, this is our job, and an incredible blessing and honor that we get to do ministry together. But with that, they want that relationship, and I think that we have that unique opportunity in the church for our relationships to have a deeper level together. So as we're doing ministry together, and it's a job, but it's a blessing.
So we are a partner. We're in a partnership. I mean, we're partners together. But I do need to be the boss sometimes, right?
Right.
Like sometimes I need to say, hey, this is what we need to do, or I really need you to think differently about that. Right? Mm-hmm. And you can do that as a partner. You don't have to do that as like the relationship doesn't just have to be boss telling someone what to do. It can be a partnership. Yeah. And you're saying your generation responds better if we think that way 100%. Than if it's just like some dude saying, do you say dude?
Dude, yeah. Some guy.
Yeah. Some dude saying, hey, do this.
Yeah.
And straighten up and stop that and have this goal. And because if you do it out of a partnership, there's just a connection there.
Yeah, so, and our generation, when we know that they have the same mission, we care about the same things. Mm-hmm. Your pastor's just as passionate about the mission as you, to the extent of wanting to build a relationship with you. I think the mission gets done better with my generation when they have that relationship built. Yeah. And with that, I think it's keeping an open communication too. Like I know if I'm in the office, it's across the hall, that I have an open communication with you where I can go in, and yes, you're busy, so I'm not going to bother you 24/7. But if I have a question, I can come by and say, "Hey, Pastor Doug, like, I have a question about this." Or
So I think maybe you're saying if you have some accessibility,
yeah,
like I bet a lot of guys who are not in the senior pastor role, but some other ministry, their pastor or ministry leader or something, like they would like to be able to say, I know I can talk to that guy if I need to,
yes,
right?
yes,
And so for us, what we've done is like I mean, there's just times when I just have to be alone, but so I want to have accessibility. Like we have a staff meeting time,
yep,
and then we also have a time when we meet, just like you and I are going to meet. And then you can find out other times, like you can come by and see if I'm available. But like, those 2 times, we're always going to have the staff meeting every week, but we're also going to have time, the you and I time.
yeah,
Yeah.
to get to know each other more and connect. And so yeah, I think that's the biggest thing as I talk to other youth pastors. They're not talking bad about their senior pastors. They love their senior pastors, but they wish that they had more time just to get to know them and build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think we have to understand about you guys?
Well, thank you for asking, Mariano. No, I appreciate that. I think it is surprising to younger ministry leaders sometimes how much guys my age really want relationships with younger guys. I don't think maybe they don't always know how to do it but they want it.
Yeah.
And it's not just like in a larger church too. So there are a lot. I mean, the average church in America's just got one pastor, but that pastor who's older would love, in most cases, would love to have some younger ministry leader like connect with him and go get coffee with him or ask him questions. And it's amazing. I think guys our age are often amazed how seldom we get that.
Yeah.
How few younger guys really want our opinion about things. And all right, I mean, like, we're not sure. Do we just go kick the door down and tell them what we think anyway, or do we? But we're surprised guys don't come to us and say, "Hey, I'd like to know." And here's kind of why. So, like, I feel like I've made some mistakes that I don't want Mariano to make, because Mariano is making a whole bunch of them on his own. Good night, you would be just. No, seriously, I've made lots of mistakes. I don't want you to, like, I want you to learn from my mistakes. Mistakes are great teachers, but they're also like ways we learn. So the Bible's filled with stories of people who did good things, but it also tells us all kinds of guys who messed up.
Yeah.
Well, it tells us that so we don't have to mess up too.
It's true.
Like we can learn. Oh, that guy did this. He forgot about God, or he got his focus off center, or whatever it was, and we can learn from their mistakes. And I feel like that's one reason. And then from the victories too. Like once in a while we see some victories in the Bible, and we learn, oh, that's like I can trust God in bigger ways or have faith. And so I feel like I'd like to help guys avoid my mistakes and learn from my victories. And like I miss that I don't get to do that as much as I want to. And I'm surprised how many guys just don't ask. Can I just tell you one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Like here's one of the things I've just noticed in ministry. Guys who do well in ministry have this one trait that is so surprising. I mean, I guess I mean by surprising, I'm surprised how many people just don't figure this out and don't do it. Guys who are successful in ministry have a trait. You want to guess what it is or anything? You want to try to guess?
Is it asking questions?
Mariano, like are you a savant? You're just a natural?
I think I've learned to ask a lot of questions myself.
The guys, if you're not asking questions, you're probably not learning. And the guys, in my experience, who I see, that guy's really making an impact for the kingdom, they're almost always guys who are asking questions because that's a great way to learn. Yeah. And I love to see that. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm also really surprised when guys, they don't ask any questions. Like they don't mind telling you everything they know. They just don't want to ask any questions.
That's good.
It's sort of surprising to me, I suppose.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think that's, even if you're listening right now, that's a challenge to you, is ask yourself, are you asking the leaders that God's placed in your life questions and learning from them? or maybe
or just giving all your advice,
Yeah.
or telling them what you know.
yeah, evaluate yourself. Where are you? I think that's a good reminder.
It's really a part of being a good listener, I think, is asking questions. And maybe a lot of us just aren't as good at listeners as we ought to be, because we talk easily. And in our vocation, like, talking is such a part of being a pastor or ministry leader or life group teacher, something like that. That talking, I mean, we do that, but we don't listen. Or even if we do, we interrupt and we start to ask. I mean, we ask a question. As soon as they say something, we start giving our
opinion or thoughts.
That's right.
That's good. So,
Mariano, you're a good question asker. I like that about you. I mean, you really want to learn.
Yeah.
And that's one reason you are learning, is because you want to.
Yeah.
And can I just encourage you to really want to learn? Yeah. And maybe you'll learn from the guy who's younger than you and from the guy who's older than you at the same time. That's the value. I think that's what we're saying a little on our podcast too. We're just saying, if you really want to be a learner, like, find somebody older than you, find somebody younger than you.
Start learning,
And both, not just guys that are your age.
No, both. We need older and younger.
The guys that are your age kind of think a lot alike.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
And you learn from them, but you can learn from guys who have a little different background and perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So how do you think that we think about ministry differently? Seasoned leaders versus student ministry.
Seasoned, does that mean old?
No, it means wise. It means wise.
It doesn't always mean wise. But
wise.
So how do we see it differently?
Yeah, how do you think we see ministry differently?
My generation had these, like, unwritten rules and traditions. They were just there, and they didn't change very quickly. So it felt like things in ministry were often really similar. Almost every church did the same programs, and then that began to change, and then it began to change a little bit more, and then faster. And it feels like the pace of change is really quick. Yep. So it's exhausting for us who grew up with ministry, has some rhythm to it, and you're doing the same sort of programs that others are doing, and man, but it doesn't feel that that's the same with your generation. Your generation it's always been changing in your generation. Yeah. So how old were you when you saw your first computer, Mariano?
Computer. Oh,
you don't even remember because you saw it all your life.
Yeah, probably. My parents, we weren't as well off, so I think we didn't have a computer till probably 7 or 8 is when I had one. But when I was in school, as soon as I started kindergarten, they had computer access in a way.
How about me? What do you think? How old do you think I was?
Let's see.
How old are you? I'm
want to take a guess here?
Yeah, take a guess.
Were you probably 30s?
Oh, good night. I'm not that. Mariano thinks I'm like 114.
You were 20s? Oh, no, because
I was in college, man. For crying out loud, I was like a little teenager still. Although I will say the computer was one giant room. That's what it had. That's what it took up, and you just had the little monitor or something. But I didn't have. I remember I saw my first desktop.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I was probably 18 or.
Because you weren't using one, were you?
No, I was not using one.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't have spell check when I did my dissertation, for crying out loud. Yeah, things like that. It's just like a really different world. Some guy got me a computer when I was doing my dissertation, thankfully, because it was crazy what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not 114. Thank you, though, for thinking that. So So what do you think? How do you think your generation is different than me? How do you see it as different than me? From my generation. I mean.
I mean, when we talk about how they do ministry, I think there's some different thoughts that I've seen, philosophies coming from my generation. One is I often hear guys that are wanting to do student ministry, and there's this kind of two sides of a coin. You have one guy who's his senior pastor might be teaching him, hey, just do everything well inside the building and people will come. And then I've also met the other side where it's like we need to do anything we can to reach outside the building to get them here. And I think that is a generational different philosophy. Do you think so? Or?
Yeah, probably. I mean, maybe it's generational to some extent.
Yeah, and I think that.
By the way, even youth pastors are a generational thing, almost because
true.
Now,
that's right.
Like when I was your age, that's when I was a youth pastor for a little while, and then became a senior pastor, which was a glorious statement for one. I was the only pastor in the church for a long, long time. So, I think now most guys are like a lot more young guys go to church planning right off the bat, so they don't get that connection with a senior pastor, and they kind of they don't even get a connection with an older guy, or their older guy is like someone who's 3 or 4 years older than them. And I think probably a lot of guys in your generation are really not in any meaningful way connected with anybody who's a lot different than they are, or a lot older than they are, or who's been in ministry in a church setting for a longer time. So
yeah, I'd say there's some different philosophies, maybe even how to do ministry. Definitely more of a long haul, slow relationship building, which we should. But I think in the past in church, we've done it's been a lot of programming, a lot of let's go out and do let's go out and reach people this way.
This generation says, man, it's about relationships.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah,
isn't
you
it?
need both.
Yeah, organization does matter. Relationships matter, and if you can put the two together, that's a really sweet place to be. And relational guys they still do programs, and guys who did programs still cared about relationships, but maybe the emphasis was a little different. Yeah.
And I think even with something that might be different is the name. But I've noticed is when my generation, like it's neat to see a pastor maybe that more people know, but they're caring more about the authenticity of the pastor. They want to meet their pastor and build a relationship with them and know them on a deeper level. And in the past, it was more of my pastor, he's on.
Names are a big deal though, because like Douglas
is a great name.
Is it?
It's a great name.
Because there's nobody naming their kids Doug. Doug is a commercial now, or it's like a joke name or something. And like I hardly ever meet young Dougs anymore. That's just a name. How about Mariano's? Is it like?
Don't know many.
Not that many? Is
it my family, it's a family name, so I'm like the third technically.
But you're not I know you weren't talking about that as a name, but.
No, but I mean they're looking for, they want authentic pastors.
Rather
and I'm not
than just a celebrity pastor.
Yeah, or even just in the past, I think when you saw your pastor in church, it was an automatic elevation of status that you can trust them.
Yes.
And our generation is they don't trust a lot of people.
Yes.
And just because you're a pastor, you're not trusted. They want to know them and see them living out.
When some guy asked a young pastor asked an old pastor back in the days when they used to do that.
Yeah.
And he said, how do I gain trust? And the pastor said this, it looks like a really genius idea. He said, be trustworthy. And I'm just telling you, man, if you'll be trustworthy, that really matters. It's always mattered.
Yeah.
But now we have a generation that has found some of these pastors weren't trustworthy, and it just really crushed younger generations of guys. And of course, a lot of the younger pastors that were really the leaders of young pastors, some of them have had some spectacular failures. So, well, listen, I am glad. It's to my benefit to have you, and I hope it's to your benefit to have me.
100%.
And I think there's something about this that really matters. So you try to find some folks in your life. If you care about ministry, find someone who's been, whatever you're teaching a life group, or you're involved in some sort of vocational ministry. Find some guys who have been in it longer than you, and some guys who are younger than you, and some guys who really, maybe just have a different, like you wanted to have the same love for the Lord, the same commitment to Scripture, but maybe someone who just has a different background. There's some benefit to that.
100%.
And I think it's been good for us, hasn't it?
Yep, it's been huge.
Mariano, beautiful name. It's a beautiful name. Really beautiful. Hey, man, we're so glad you've been with us for Encouraging Faith, and we do hope this will encourage your faith. We want you to walk with the Lord, grow in your commitment to Him, and really become everything He wants you to become in whatever ministry God has for you. God bless you. Have a great day.